Okay, today in the next episode of Do-It-Yourself Vehicle Repairs, we're going to talk about leaky fuel lines and how to replace them yourself. Okay, these repairs that I'm going to show you today are fairly expensive to have done if you're going to take it in and have someone else do it. And that makes it prohibitive to keep a vehicle for a long time. So that works in favor of those that need you and want you to keep buying stuff and to keep going in the debt. So I've actually seen quotes on the internet for the same repair I'm showing you in the fuel line repair of up to $1,500. It cost me less than $100. So this is the difference between taking it in and having somebody else do it, or building your skill to do it yourself. I've got a drop tank off my car here, and I've got the sending unit right here. Now most fuel lines are made out of rubber hoses or plastic, and they last a long time. They'll outlast your car in most cases. But the sending unit itself is made out of very thin steel, and it sits up on top of the tank where there's lots of moisture. If you live in places where they put salt on the roads, you're going to have a lot of salt up there, and they will rust out within 10 years for sure. Now this of course results in a fuel leak, and that's where it seems like it's a setup, because this is the worst place to get a fuel leak. It's on top of the tank where you can't get to it. Now if they would simply just engineer eliminating these steel lines and plugging into your sending unit, you wouldn't have this whole area that's bound to go bad on you. It just seems like a setup, guys. And dropping the tank doesn't seem like such a difficult job if it was in a laboratory environment. Anybody that's ever dropped a tank will tell you it's an extremely difficult job, and I'm hoping I can show you a few tips to make that easy for you as well. Let me give you another little quick tip. This whole unit, this part, is going to cost you around $450 if you buy it as a whole piece. That's pretty expensive. And that's what it's probably going to cost you if you take it in and have somebody else do it. This part, the tubing and the framework for the sending unit, only cost me $60. I simply took my old working fuel pump off and put it on here. So that only cost me $60. Doing it yourself will definitely save you some money. So let's put our new sending unit in. I like to put a little lubricant around the fastener. Do not use WD-40. It has a rubber O-ring on here. WD-40 is a great deal when you're trying to clean stuff up, but don't use it on anything rubber or plastic for that matter. I just use a little screwdriver and a hammer. So I got that put on. Let's take this back to the car and I'll show you how I got it off the hangers in the first place. Okay, first off, I will admit I'm more of a shade tree mechanic guy. I prefer to work outside rather than inside a garage. I prefer to work on a nice clean concrete slab, asphalt if that's all I've got, but I don't want to work inside of a garage. However, I recommend whenever you're working on the fuel system of your vehicle or the brake system to find a part of your yard that you really don't care about that's kind of sandy or dirty, and that's where you want to work on your fuel system or brake system, because you're inevitably going to spill these liquids on the ground. And no matter what you do, it's going to happen. Now if you don't have any other choice besides your driveway, have some oil spill kitty litter ready, because you're definitely, no matter if you try to drain the fuel system or not, you're going to lose fuel, you're going to lose brake fluid onto the ground. And having said that, whenever I drop the fuel system and I spill fuel on the ground, I even like to give it a day, if I can, just to let the vapors evaporate away. Okay, I got you underneath the car with me. I want to show you what we're up against here. This is where the gas tank goes up into. These are the hangers that hold the gas tank up. Looks pretty simple, doesn't it? Well, let me show you where these things connect. There's the hanger point where this hanger hooks up into. That looks pretty easy, doesn't it? Well, there's a lot of corrosion that collects here, and the bolt that's in there gets pretty corroded, and as you can see, they've got it totally enclosed, engineered that way, so you can't really get to it. Now imagine the tank is right here at the bottom of the tank, and you've got about 2 fingers to reach up in there to get to the top of that nut. And there is where the problem lies. Okay, and it gets worse. See, they just don't put a regular nut that goes onto that bolt that holds those saddles up, that holds your gas tank up. They put a clip nut Yes, horrible name. Clip nut just sends shivers down my spine. They put a clip nut on there, and then after all that time it gets corroded. So when you go to take it off, the clip bolt just spins, it breaks. So you're left with this torture device that's just spinning there, and you can't get up anything on there to hold that nut. So you're fighting with it. Now if you're lucky, you can soak it down with PB Blaster for a day, at least a day, and it might come off. Like one bolt did come off for me, but in most cases the clip nut is designed to break on you and you're stuck with this, and then you have to cut those saddles that hold the tank up. Those from the dealership are $100. So there's another 100 on top of the 400 you already spent on the sending unit. So it gets pretty pricey if you don't do it yourself and do it smart. Now what I did to remedy this and save my saddles, I took my Dremel with a cut wheel and I brought it up in that little space and I turned the bolt with a ratchet as I cut into it. And then I just gave it a little whack right at that point with a chisel, and it snapped off. And I was able to easily take my tank down. Little tip for you. This is what I'll be replacing these torture devices with when I go to put my gas tank back in. Now there's your old lines that hook up to your sending unit. They're made of plastic and they come with these things. And these are impossible to get the corroded steel lines out of that are attached to your old sending unit. So I just cut those off. There's 2 of them. And you can buy a kit that's pretty expensive to hook those back up, but I don't do that. I just heat the ends up, the lighter, and attach them directly to my sending unit, which I'm about to show you here, and then tighten them down with some clamps. Now obviously you're working around possible gasoline here, okay, so I don't have to tell you to be careful when using flame, right? Now before I get underneath the car and actually start hooking things up, I like to pre-fit these, and I do that by sticking long nose needle pliers inside the lines and then heating it up a little bit, just enough to soften it up, and then stretch them out. It's easy to do it out here, not so easy to do it once you're underneath in all those awkward positions. That way all the lines will fit on nice and easy, and then I stick a piece of rubber tubing on as almost a dust cover. That way that corrosion and that salt and that water won't collect there like it will on the factory version. See how those look? So hopefully that'll make things a little easier once I get underneath there. Now I've got the tank underneath the car and I'm fitting it up into the carriage area where it sits so I can put the straps back on and then hook up the fuel lines. And this is another big reason why this repair costs so much money, because if you take this in, they will remove the exhaust. They'll cut it and then refit it on. And you can do that yourself too. Just with a cut saw, you could cut it off where you need to get it out of the way. And then just with a little adapter that you could buy at AutoZone, you can put it back on. Now, me personally, I would rather fight and kick this thing to get it back up underneath without taking anything else off. That's just, what I'd rather do. And I'm not going to film that because there's all kinds of cuss words involved on this, and kicking and screaming, and probably stuff that I'll, cuss words that I'll make up you've never even heard before, and I don't think it'll pass the sensors. Okay, so I got my 3 lines hooked up, and that was fun. Such a nice little space to work in. But they're hooked up and they got my little homemade dust covers on them. And then I got the filler tube and the vent hooked up as well. Now all I got to do is hook up my hangers. Now I'm putting the first hanger back up in just to give you an idea of the space that I'm working in here. If I had a bent wrench, it'd be a lot easier, but I do not have one in that size. So I've got to kind of prop the wrench up into the tank, against the tank, and then put pressure on it while I'm putting this bolt in, screwing the bolt in. So it's real easy. Okay, I got the first one in. That only took like 20 minutes. Hey, if I was going to make a recommendation to GM engineers, I would weld a nut onto the back of that tab. That'd make it a lot easier on us do-it-yourselfers if in any way you're interested in wanting to do that. Okay, I got the last one done, and with this one I greased up the end of the wrench and stuck the nut into it. And that, grease is actually excellent for holding parts while you're trying to put them on. And then I threaded it through the hanger and got it in there. So I'm about ready to put some gas in this to see if it's going to work. It also helped out to jack the gas tank up. A transmission jack would have been perfect, but I kind of took some boards and a little jack and put it underneath there and held it up while I put the hangers on. That really helps to have it, you know, just put in place. Just got to get it through the lines. Oh. I was having the engine service light on before because it detected the leak. You know, there was probably a vacuum leak there. So I'll have to clear that. Let's go check if I got any leaks. Okay, I've got no gas leaks. Nothing coming out. That's good, because I wouldn't want to have to go back and do this again. Alright, seems to be running good. Now let's clear that code. On most cars, you can clear the code just by taking the negative off the battery and leaving it off for about 10 seconds. And after 10 seconds, put your terminal back on. Oh my gosh, black helicopters! Run! Tighten it back up. There we go. Code cleared. Just take that negative off for a few seconds. So there you have it. Over $1,000 repair done for less than $100 by doing it myself. So how is that a part of prepping? Well, it's a part of prepping because prepping is about being self-sufficient, self-reliant, having the skills to do it yourself. But more importantly, I think pursuing this lifestyle allows me to step outside of the trap that the world is right now. That you have to keep working and working and working to keep buying and paying for all this stuff. See, you can always make more money. I can always work more hours. But you can't make more time. You can't make more time to do the things that you want to do. There is a finite amount of time that you're going to be able to live. There's a finite amount of time you're going to be able to spend with your family. And at the end of all things, it's really relationships that matter the most. I mean, you're never going to get to the end of your life and wish you would have made more money. You're going to wish you had more time. That's key. And that's what this allows me to do. I can step off the squirrel cage that's set up for me. That everybody else just keeps working and working, working more hours to be able to buy new stuff or keep up the new stuff or buy more televisions. That's what this is about for me. That's what prepping's about for me. I can step outside of this trap. So by doing these things myself, saving this income saves me time in the long run. Time that I can spend doing things that I really want to do.